Now this is going to be a conversation you wish you had with yourself a long time ago. Come on, everyone makes mistakes. I mean, everyone. And hindsight is a beautiful thing. Looking back is clear as day. And after some long thought, I'm gonna go over some of my regrets that I'll rather much avoid at my ripe old age. And let's get straight into it. Enjoying too much nightlife. We've all gone through a phase where every weekend there is a motive. And whilst for a period of time that's all well and good when we don't have much responsibilities, it starts to become a bit of an issue when life starts to kick in. When you're spending too much money on drinks and a little bit too much time when you're out, there's a cost that needs to be made. There's an aftermath. Maybe you're hungover, or you just don't have the energy to do what needs to be done the following day. And even though I've never really drunk myself into oblivion, what did used to annoy me was the following day. Usually my mornings would be unproductive and usually it would be wasted. And there's a point on a night out where there is no return. You have to make a decision to call it quits at a suitable time and go home, which for me nowadays is before 12 o'clock, don't laugh, or stay till the early hours of the morning, and at that point you render the next day unproductive. It's choosing that now versus later. And now that my time is more valuable, I'm a lot more stricter with my nights out. They are few and far between, more than a reoccurrence. And I like it that way. Too much of a good thing doesn't always feel the same. Have you ever eaten at your favourite restaurant every day? I think not. And even if you did, it won't feel the same. It won't feel special anymore. The higher frequency or the more amount of something makes it less valuable. And these people that you find that are out all the time are always chasing a high of the next best night out. And when I think about it, all the best nights that I've had is ones where I didn't assume it was going to be anything great. I didn't think it was going to be a special night. But it's those nights that were my best. It's the ones that I talk with my friends over with and we tell stories about. And this crowd that are always on the prowl at night are often not really living their best life. And there's that line that people often say, you can often see how successful someone is if you look at their 5 closest friends. If your friends are always partying and going out all the time, what are they really doing with themselves? And there was a point in time where I didn't want to be associated with that crowd anymore. And that crowd will always slowly recruit you into their circle. And I don't want to be that old guy in the club. I mean, we've all seen that person in the club just lingering there, dancing by themselves, trying to chat up the younger girls. Yeah, that's not me. Yeah, it's not a good look. Giving myself deadlines. I think when we're younger, time seems to pass a lot more slowly, which gives us this false perception that we have more of it. Later becomes next week, and next week becomes the end of the month. Been there, done that, worn the t-shirt countless times. I had something to do on my list, but then something else would arise, and I would slowly just put that to the back, only to end up doing it in a rush last minute. Why was that? And why do we leave things till last minute? Well, there's something called Parkinson's law, and it might explain the phenomena.
Parkinson's law states that the amount of work expands to fill the time available for its completion, meaning that if you give yourself a week to complete a 2-hour task, then psychologically speaking, that task will take that time allocated. And you've probably experienced this when you're in a meeting of some sort. If it's a 2-hour meeting, it will take that time. Rarely will it be cut short.
And I would fall into this trap so often. Minor or big tasks, I would just leave it and time would compound. I used to have a love-hate relationship with reading. I knew it was good for me, but it's something that I never really indulged in doing. I didn't see much point of it until I came across entrepreneurship and reading autobiographies. It's something that I really wanted to learn and see what challenges people face. For me now, I see books as distilled chapters of knowledge. My trick is to look at a book, look at the chapters and to see what chapters appeal to me. Then I would go directly to those chapters to read. I don't feel the need to read the whole of the book. What's annoying is that sometimes books, they feel like they're forced in order to fill up the book with all these stories that kind of repeat the same message, just in a different way. And you can actually get a message from a book just by reading 1 or 2 chapters. I would rather read a few chapters and actually use that and implement that. And if you're interested, I'm currently reading The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter and Quiet by Susan Cain. And I do regret not appreciating reading earlier on in life. Now I see the value in reading. I wonder what the compounding interest would have been in terms of my knowledge if I had kept up reading from a younger age. And usually when I immerse myself into a book, it's usually in the mornings. I tend to try and avoid doing it in the evenings as I tend not to retain the information as well. I'm in a state of sleep and relax, so that doesn't really work for me. And I've recently made the change going paperless. And all the books now I read through the Kindle app through my iPad. If I don't have my iPad, I have my phone. And now I don't have an excuse if I've got some free time. Social media detox. Now this one's obvious. The digital has taken over and it's almost impossible to avoid. On average, a person spends 1 hour and 40 minutes on social media. And with myself, I realized there was a point where I'd grab my phone wanting to check the weather or something, and subconsciously my finger would gravitate towards Instagram, and I'd have to consciously bring myself back to not actually tap it. And at times I would resist, but at times it would grab me in. I mean, I had no intention of going on it at all. How do they do that? I just wasted another 10 minutes of just scrolling. I didn't even mean to do it. This black magic of social media had me acting in ways where I didn't want to. That's why nowadays, from time to time, I just delete the app and go on a total detox, cold turkey. It's a simple and effective solution that I wish I'd implemented sooner. Just going analog for a period of time may feel weird at first, but I guarantee it, you will feel better coming out of it. And when I'm not on it, I'm not comparing myself, there's less FOMO, and I'm focusing more on my daily activities. Learn to single task. We all do it. Texting while walking, sending emails during meetings. There's a view that multitasking is a must. Doing all these things at the same time. And the thing is though, we actually think we're doing more. And if you're multitasking your way through the day, you're probably doing yourself more a disservice. And it's nowhere near as effective as you would like to believe. When you're doing 2 or more things at the same time, I mean, how well are you actually doing it? Have you ever actually tried to listen to 2 songs at the same time? Or listen to 2 conversations at the same time? It's virtually impossible. And what feels like multitasking is virtually just switching between the 2, going back and forth. And this actually reduces productivity. I mean, back in the day, I'd actually have the TV on in the background, the music on, doing an essay at the same time, and I actually think this was work. And over time, I've realized I'm more productive sitting on a desk or sitting in a coffee shop, just tuned in on one thing, one particular task. And I wish I'd implemented periods of deep focus, 2 to 3 hours at a time, I'd probably say. A method for me that delivers so much more output. Budgeting and tracking expenses. Clearly, not following a budget is bad news. So let's talk about the consequences of not budgeting and overspending. Well, apart from being unprepared for emergencies and unexpected expenses, a surprise can throw you off totally, financially speaking, and land you in chaos. And one word comes to mind: stress. And although I never really fell into debt, I did have an overdraft when I was a student. And yes, it was maxed out, and I hated having that just lingering over me, having to pay that off each month. And having a huge amount of debt is something now I would definitely avoid. And before, I didn't budget. I didn't even think about tracking my expenses. I mean, what was I thinking? It was definitely a source of reoccurring frustration. And I wasn't really aware of it at the time, but when I think about it, we are always being bombarded with messages of spend, spend, spend. I mean, way back when I didn't budget, I knew I could cover my expenses and my bills, but it was these unexpected purchases that were a problem. The nights out, the drinks, the restaurants, the spontaneous purchases online. The importance of budgeting is a financial lesson that cannot be overemphasized. And regrets don't have to be something that you don't think about or something that you avoid. And I treat them as lessons, because at the end of the day, they're all experiences, right? Anyways, guys, that brings me to the end of the video. I appreciate you guys for watching. If you like this video, please smash the like button. If you have any comments, please do write down below, and I'll see you guys in another one.